Time now for Back Pages Tonight here on Sky Sports News. They're bringing you a first look at the sports stories in the morning's newspapers. And joining me tonight, Riyadh Al-Samurai, chief sports feature writer at the Daily Mail, and Martin Hardy, Northern sports correspondent for the Times and the Sunday Times. Welcome along to you both. And of course, there's only one place to start, and that is with Harry Kane, scoring 2 goals on his 100th England cap. Goal 67 and 68, if you are interested, as England beat Finland by 2-0 in the Nations League, the first home game in interim charge for Lee Carsley. But all of the back pages are filled with pictures of the England captain, Harry Kane. This in the back page of the Telegraph. Man of the century, 2-goal Kane celebrates 100th England cap in style. Riyadh, the build-up was obviously dominated by Kane. You know, the talk of the golden boots, we saw them in training, the golden cap we knew that he would be presented with. And he absolutely delivered. It was very much his night.
Absolutely. I think with Harry Kane, we kind of had this dual narrative. One was the celebration of this body of work that's taken him to 100 caps. And the other one, of course, was about his form. The summer didn't go brilliantly for him at the Euros. I think he's admitted that himself. He was off pace. Naturally, he's 31 years old. We talk about at what point does the spring go from the legs? At what point does he start to slow down? And, look, we'll keep a little bit of perspective. It's Finland in the Nations League, but he scored 2 goals, 2 very well taken goals, particularly the first one. I thought his wider performance was excellent as well. Those things that we've seen him criticised for a little bit in the past, how deep he drops, how involved he gets in the wider play. I thought he did that brilliantly tonight as a striker as well. He was constantly getting himself in those positions. It was actually shaping into one of those frustrating evenings for him. He'd missed a few chances. He'd had a goal disallowed. So he's managed to turn it around. He's basically one goal short this evening of the absolute perfect match for the occasion. But we've seen Harry Kane do the things that he does best tonight. I thought it was really impressive from him.
Tell you what, Riyadh, your bar is set very, very high. Yeah, do you know what? I think everyone thought when he scored the first 2, will he maybe get the hat-trick? Let's just have a look at the back page of The Sun. The man with the golden ton, as opposed to gun. Kane's 100th, gold 100th cap, gold boots and 2 goals. I wonder also, Martin, you alluded to it there, Riyadh, but Martin, it was the quality of the strikes, and they were different as well. One with the laces and one guided, it swept in. These weren't just tap-ins. These were impressive clinical strikes, weren't they, from Harry Kane tonight?
I think Harry's most difficult opponents tonight were his 4 children on the pitch at the start of the game, and that was a lot for an England captain to deal with ahead of such an historic and momentous night for him. It was interesting afterwards. He was asked about that bit of criticism he had during the Euros, and I think there was a back injury there that probably curtailed him. I think there was a stylistic issue. We forget that he's come such a long way from a player that was on loan with Millwall and Norwich, and I think a debut goal within 80 seconds, but that's back in 2015. What you saw tonight, and completely agree with you, this is a poor team you're playing against and you should beat them, was just the power, especially the second finish. And just that kind of physicality that Harry Kane has and that desire to score, and he just smashed it and there was no way the goalkeeper was going to stop it. That didn't look like a player that was thinking of saying, the next major championships is going to be beyond me. Two goals to take him to such a historic tally for England makes it very difficult for Lee Carsley or another England manager to say, I'm going to try somebody else, because he just continually scores goals and he has this great desire to prove people wrong. I think he said afterwards he's excited for the future. You can see so many flair players around him. I'm sure we'll speak about his link up with Trent tonight, which was something to really offer hope for the future. But you're talking about a player here who has consistently scored, carries himself well, very humble. Was on, as I said, even though it was a bit of a difficult moment, he was on the pitch before the game with his children. The golden boots comes good with 2 thunderous strikes, and has proven himself to be one of the great English centre forwards. And I'm not sure he's going to retire for a few years yet.
No, he's only 31. So Riyadh, 100 caps, 68 goals. And he's got other sources of inspiration like Cristiano Ronaldo, like, Luka Modric, etc., etc. How much longer can you see him being England's not just captain, but first choice up front and carrying on the great work he's already done.
As long as he stays fit, because when we typically talk about a player getting older, we talk about the pace going, that degree of spring in the step. And Harry Kane's never really been what I would describe as a pace player. He's sharp around the box. We saw that with the turn for the first goal, but he's never been that explosive pace guy who could take a touch and knock it behind. That's not him. So. We've seen it with Tom Brady. He alluded to that himself this week. We've seen it with Cristiano Ronaldo. We're seeing it across the sports. Novak Djokovic. Players are going deeper and deeper into their 30s and still competing at the top level. I can see that with Harry Kane. I wouldn't say he's not had a terribly bad injury record. In fact, he's probably had a pretty good one. So, all of those things that you would expect to slow a player down, those don't appear to be factors with him. And certainly his desire is there. I think, given how much we always talk about Harry Kane and trophies, he's not going to go anywhere until he's won something, is he? I just hope for his sake that sooner rather than later.
Martin, you mentioned before about, the link-up play in Trent Alexander-Arnold. I just wonder whether Harry Kane might be even more rejuvenated given the new style of play that he's involved in now under Lee Carsley. I mean, that ball from Trent Alexander-Arnold for the first goal, or was it? I'm trying to remember the one that was driven. Yes, it was, because then he just nicked it left and right and then smashed past the keeper. Yeah, that was a very sort of like vertical ball, wasn't it? And it was it wasn't just sideways passing. And he excelled at fullback as well. Do you wonder if that might help Harry Kane even more with what Lee Carsley is trying to do?
And well, two elements to deal with there. Alan Shearer, towards the end of his career at Newcastle, when Bobby Robson was manager, Bobby Robson bought Laurent Robert, who was a flying machine on the left, and Craig Bellamy. And suddenly the lack of speed that Alan had as he got older was not a problem at all. Those two provided that. They stressed opposition teams. Alan Shearer was left to plunder another load of goals. So you watched tonight and you watched Anthony Gordon, and there was that frustration of why he didn't get a greater chance in the European Championships. You saw the hunger of Jack Grealish alongside him, and that created opportunities and space for Harry Kane to do what he does best, which is kind of wander around the penalty area, not be frightened to drop a little bit deeper. As long as you've got pace and movement up front, he can do that. That was just what looked quite static in the European Championships. The Trent issue feels different in that Kyle Walker is 34 now and could be 36 for the next major championships. Kieran Trippier has retired. Reece James has had this plethora of injury problems. Suddenly the pathway for Trent looks quite open. And the player we saw tonight was much more of the one you see for Liverpool, confident on the ball, happy to step up in the midfield, giving the team all kind of options. And the first pass he played, which he gets the assist for on the goal, is good enough. But the second ball that he plays to Madueke, it's like a golf shot, and then he hits it so beautifully. The ball seems to have backspin to drag it back, and then it's played square, and Harry Kane scores again. What's that 31st cap, I think, for Trent? He's still only 25, a beautiful player, and with the eye to unlock teams and help Harry Kane in a way that not very many other English players can do. And that was one of the big pluses from tonight, his performance, and kind of seeing him step out maybe of the shadows of some of his peers in that position. So
do we think now that the midfield experiment with Trent Alexander-Arnold is over because he has excelled at right back tonight, but also, given the likes of Angel Gomez we can talk about and Kobbie Mainoo, etc., now filling those berths?
Yeah, absolutely. I think obviously we saw Mainoo have a good summer. Gomez, I thought, was very good tonight. He was very comfortable on the ball, which is what we're always lamenting is the big issue for English midfielders, and it seemed to free up Declan Rice to some extent as well. I think just sort of sticking with Gomez for a moment there, I think if you wanted a kind of counterpoint to him, I'm watching him take the ball, and his decision making is so sharp in that kind of congested part of the pitch. And you flip it around, you look at someone like Madueke, who's incredibly talented, and he's come on. I thought he snatched at a lot of his opportunities. I thought the burden of the occasion coming on, playing for England at Wembley, we didn't see the best of him this evening. So it's a hard thing to do, to come in and really grab an opportunity on that kind of stage. And Gomez, what we saw was a player completely at ease with the surroundings. So yeah, going to your question about Trent, I do think we're past that. And yeah, you can see what Southgate's thinking when he was playing him there, because some of Trent's best play today was, as Martin says, when he stepped into midfield. He hit a pass in the second half for Eze, and it was like something Ronnie O'Sullivan would do. It had sort of a bit of check right-hand side, just cuts inside. The man's instinct, his vision, and his technique to be able to deliver on these pictures that are flashing through his mind in milliseconds. It's an absolute wonderful gift. When I watch Trent, I still come to this conclusion that if England find a way to get the best out of him, you're talking about a player who could have as much impact on a game as Bellingham, Kane, Foden. These are, the sort of legitimately world-class players in that side. England have got that in Trent. I'm just amazed it's taken this long for him to, really be identified as a first-choice right back.
I'm enjoying the references to other sports in, describing Trent Alexander-Arnold's, distribution tonight. Let's talk about those younger players. Angel Gomez, who obviously Lee Carsley really trusts and really rates, and also Rico Lewis at left back, who he's played there before. Martin, your thoughts on the young players, particularly Angel?
Rico Lewis is so good. I think you could play him anywhere on a football pitch and he would still look like one of the best players. Just never seems bothered by anything. Comfortable on the ball, happy to play it short. Just going to play for England for the next 15 years. Angel Gomez comes in that much more difficult position that Gareth Southgate has repeatedly said when he was England manager, that academies don't produce somebody that can sit in front of the back four, a la Busquets or Pirlo, not be bothered about bombing forward and dictate the game and keep the ball rotating. I thought he did that really, really well tonight. Incredible for somebody so young and stepping into that stage. My only slight concern would be that his instinct, or maybe it's the team tactics, because they were playing against a poor team, he was just a little bit high. And a couple of times in the first half, when Declan Rice got tackled, he was a little bit out of position just to cover and tidy up. England, what was quite reassuring, I'm still not sure Lee Carsley will get the job, or even tonight after what he said, whether he wants the job. Right at the start of this, he said that England won't win anything until we can control games better. And until you have a player that's happy to sit there and just sometimes take the sting out of the game, sometimes take 5 or 6 passes, another half a minute. In the final stages of that game against Spain, England just could not keep possession. So it's desperately one of the big issues for England to try and be successful is to find somebody that can play that position. 5 yards further deeper, that would have been the perfect debut tonight, because he looked so comfortable and he always wanted the ball and he was happy to just bounce it around, little short passes. Didn't always want to go long and pretend he was Glenn Hoddle, happy just to move the ball and keep the team. He just needed to play a little bit deeper, but a really good start from him.
Kane's night, but future looks bright as well. OK, gents, we're going to take a little break. Thank you very much indeed for the moment. When we come back, we'll look at more of the back pages, including this on the back page of The Sun, alongside the Harry Kane story. Martin Odegaard, he's a major worry for Arsenal ahead of the North London derby. You're watching Back Pages tonight. So welcome back to you at home. Welcome back to Riyadh Al Samurai, Chief Sports Feature Writer at the Daily Mail, and Martin Hardy, Northern Sports Correspondent for the Times and the Sunday Times. OK, so the Premier League returns this weekend. And one of the big games, of course, live on Sky is the North London derby, Tottenham against Arsenal. And on the back page of The Sun, top there, Martin Odegaard. Martin Odegaard hobbled onto a plane yesterday as Arsenal waited anxiously on the results of a scan. He needs to be helped onto the jet by the crew after crossing the runway on crutches. I mean, the pictures that worrying enough if you're an Arsenal fan. Martin, I mean, that and Declan Rice being suspended, of course, for this game. This is huge for Arsenal, isn't it? This is, one of the worst case scenarios that Mikel Arteta can imagine, I guess, heading into a North London derby.
Yeah, it's an absolutely massive blow, and even the noises that are trying to be positive suggested that it's ligament damage. If it's any form of ligament damage, that's him out of probably the next couple of games, never mind a really big game so early on the season on Sunday. He is the player that makes Arsenal tick. He's their captain. When he plays well, they just look an even better team. I'm not sure they've had the greatest start of the season. I was at Aston Villa and they played well without hitting the heights of last year. to take Declan Rice out of that game as well due to an act of stupidity. You just lost 2/3 of a midfield that is so important to Mikel Arteta. It may depend. The flip side is whether Dominic Solanke is fit. I saw Tottenham against Newcastle, and they desperately needed a centre forward and didn't have one, and missed chance after chance. So the game could be dependent upon which players either team can get out. But it's an early international break that always annoys people. You've just got the flow of the Premier League back in, and I'm sure Arteta has sat at home fuming about losing his key player ahead of a game. He won't want to lose to Tottenham. Tottenham will feel that this is a game they can now win in his absence, and that stupidity from Rice as well increases the chances of Tottenham of doing that.
Yeah, I was going to just follow on to your point, Martin, of just the nature of the injury, because ligaments are so delicate. We all know about knee ligaments, anterior cruciates, and the ACL now being the one that really scuppers you for a season or so. But how might this affect Arsenal's season, given that it's their captain as well, the man who is their metronome, Riyadh?
It's absolutely vital to Arsenal that this isn't serious. I think even talking about the North London derby is ambitious in the extreme, but you go beyond that, and you've got the Champions League, then you've got Man City as well. I mean, this is coming at a really, really big time for Arsenal, even if we are only in September. But he's quite simply, I think he's their best player by a street. Talking just in the immediate future of North London derby, Tottenham high defensive line, you really want a lock picker who can play through the gaps that Tottenham always leave. Odegaard is, nailed on. He is the person who you would design for that particular scenario. So I think it's huge for Arsenal, the fact that they've also got sort of doubts around Gabriel as well. Rice has done Mourinho sort of Calafiori at the back. They have got problems. It's early in the season, but it's no time for them to be dropping points. We can probably say with a degree of sort of predictability that Man City are going to end up somewhere around about 100 points. You haven't got that much wiggle room in a season these days. So I think it could be hugely costly if he's out for anything more than a couple of games.
I wonder also the element of these two players, Martin Odegaard, Declan Rice, they're leaders, aren't they? I mean, Odegaard is still young, but, he's a man beyond his years. He wears the armband. And given you mentioned, issues with Gabriel as well, that needs to be replaced in the team as well. They signed Raheem Sterling on loan from Chelsea on deadline day, Martin. Does that maybe increase the chances of him having a role in this simply because he's faced these big games before, he's that bit older, and he can add that leadership quality?
Potentially, it's a good point there that they are the two driving forces, or two of the driving forces that we suspect will be missing from the Arsenal dressing room for such a big game. And as Riyadh said, Tottenham play this very high line. They are susceptible to pace, and what a story that'd be for Raheem Sterling to leave what was becoming a real misery at Chelsea and then start this new chapter at Arsenal in the North London derby. Will remain to be seen, of course. The key area for Arteta is about controlling the game, and he's lost two of the players that do that. But that does leave gaps for other players to step forward. The Arsenal squad has been strengthened again in the summer. They will still see themselves as a superior team to Tottenham, who are still kind of finding their feet. That brilliant start of 12 months ago still hasn't been really replicated yet. So, it's a chance for Raheem Sterling. It's probably a lot sooner than Mikel Arteta would have liked before he's drilled into him the way that he wants to play, the way that he sees Raheem Sterling developing. But, it's not an 11-man game anymore. And Arsenal, have spent plenty of money, and they will still think they have the players to step in.
I've just got a few minutes left, gents, so let's just very briefly dip into a bit of cricket. Back page of the Telegraph, England dropped Lawrence for Pakistan tour. So Dan Lawrence, test opener, hasn't really worked out, has it, Martin? I mean, he's had these 6 innings for England against Sri Lanka in the 3-test tour and 3 test matches here. And why do you feel it's not checked out for him?
Well, it was a gamble starting him so high up the order. It hasn't worked. England have lost the last test, and what we've seen over the last couple of years is this England regime are prepared to be ruthless, and you are given your chance, you need to take it, and if you don't, you may miss the next tour. This is when, despite the fact Ben Stokes may miss the first test with a hamstring injury, On the other side of the team, the bowling seems a little bit weak. And I'm still stunned by the fact that England are naming a squad and none of the England fans going across to Pakistan know where the games are going to take place because it hasn't been confirmed yet. But it's still 8 players in the squad who were there at the series win 2 years ago. And it's still going to be aggressive batting. And Dan Lawrence just has to go back and kind of earn another shot. He can do that. But for the time being, the team has moved on and he has to try and catch up.
A couple of minutes left. Let's go back to the football. We started with England. Let's finish with England. A back page of the Eye looks like this. A Kane double has a golden touch. Captain marks his 100th cap with style. But, of course, we mentioned it briefly before. Lee Carsley, Riath. So has this really helped cement further what he's trying to do? It must have increased his chances of getting the job full-time.
Yeah, again, I don't want to finish in the way that I started by being a little bit miserable, but you do have to apply perspective about the opposition. Within that, though, they had a good first half against Republic of Ireland. They had a good second half against Finland. I wouldn't say the first half today was particularly good. I believe they started the second half by throwing aeroplanes. It's never a great sign at Wembley when the paper planes come out, but look. They've played 2, they've won 2. At times, they've played some very attractive football. And we're talking about a squad that doesn't yet have Foden, Bellingham in it, Cole Palmer as well. So, he's not playing with a full deck yet. But there have been moments when they've looked very promising, and they've won 2 from 2. It's hard to sort of to knock that, but I would reiterate they've not played anyone who you'd expect them to find in the sharp end of a tournament. And as we saw with Gareth Southgate, it seems that the expectations are incredibly high. You must win and you must win finals. Really
quickly, if you can, Martin, how many games will he get to oversee? It'll be less than 6, or more than 6, Lee Carsley?
I thought it would be 6 after the game when he said, I'm out of my comfort zone and I definitely don't feel comfortable. I suddenly thought, does he actually want this job? Or is he trying to take the pressure off the FA? You still have 2 other candidates, one in a job Eddie Howe and one not in a job in Graham Potter. And I'm sure it'll be between the 3 of them who is the next England permanent manager.
Fantastic. Riath and Martin, thank you very much indeed. Well, plenty more to come. It is the story of the night, and he's the man of the night. Harry Kane for England.